A very warm welcome to Thursday Night News. If it is Thursday here on Look Up TV, you know that we factor in the youth. And on today's episode, we are talking about youth and making sustainable businesses. And with me on set is Sophie Mwale. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Yes, so we are talking about youth having sustainable businesses. Where do we start from? So we know that there's a lot of, the rate of unemployment across the world is over 60% among the youth. And a lot of people have been encouraged to get into business. So business is, they're also crowded. The market is stuffed. One person comes and starts a mandazi business, then 50 people crop in and start selling mandazis. So there is still a great challenge for even people and businesses. So how can youth start businesses that are sustainable?
Thank you so much, Nelima. Thank you for having me here today. I think on the issue around youth and businesses, I always say that we talk about businesses, but we emphasize less on innovation, right? I think if we were having more conversations around innovation and fostering an ecosystem that supports and allows for innovation, then in terms of potential, there is so much potential for you to achieve so much in this country, you know. You look at developed countries, like you go to the US, you go to Silicon Valley. As we speak, there are probably maybe tens of companies that are getting started right now. Almost all of them may be in the software space, you know. And you never wonder why we have not exhausted the potential for that. But it's because everybody who thinks of getting into the business space, they come in with a new mindset, with a new idea, and they understand the structure that is necessary to put in place for a business to succeed. You have to identify a need, and you have to study the market to see, is there anybody who's fulfilling the need right now? If there is nobody fulfilling the need, or the people who are fulfilling it are not doing it enough, then you can get in. But then you also have to think about, how do you differentiate from whatever solutions that have been there that have been meeting this need?
Okay, we will talk about that shortly.
Yes.
But first I want to get your experience.
Yes.
When you graduated from school,
Yes.
did you tarmac? What was the experience like?
I tarmacked a lot, and I think my entire journey of starting Employ was fully advised by my own experiences. I mean, as far as job hunting goes, going to all the recruitment firms, the legit and the shady ones, I did all that. I used to leave the house by 6 a.m. I would be smartly dressed. My sister used to laugh at me because I look like I'm going to work. But I would...
And you are not?
Yes.
You were going to look for a job?
And I will look for a job the whole day and come back at night. And I'll do it again tomorrow.
Was it like when you wake up, then you drop CVs in different organizations?
Yes, so I used to have, like, either I will start with a cyber and look at what is there on the internet for that day. At around noon, I would leave and maybe visit a HR company in town or in Kilimani or one of these places. Maybe at around 1-ish thereabout, I would hit industrial area and I would just walk door to door to the last company until it was too late and everybody was closed. Then I'll go back home and do it all over again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, definitely I tarmacked, and I think, like, the disaster that job seekers have experienced in this market is that everybody focuses their efforts and energy on employers when they come up with solutions, whether it's a job board, whether it's a recruitment firm, because you think, well, it's employers, you know, companies are able to pay well, you know. But the fact that there is a huge need in the job seeker space, the fact that not a lot of people in university are taught job search skills, not a lot of people are taught job preparedness, and honestly I think it needs to be part of the curriculum, just like we do have entrepreneurship as part of our curriculum.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people come out into the market highly unprepared, and it takes a lot of struggle and unnecessary effort for them to actually finally figure it out, or for them to land their first job.
So you are the CEO and founder of Employ.
Yes.
Which is it's a job site as well as explain what exactly Employ Kenya is about.
Well, so Employ basically it's a two-sided talent marketplace that's allowing for the sourcing and managing of young professionals.
Okay.
So basically, as a marketplace, we are not just talking about jobs, we are talking about all the tools that are necessary to help one land a job. You know, before you start looking for a job, you need to have the right tools to look for a job. You need to have the right advice to look for a job. You need to have the right idea of what value you are going to offer in a job if you're given. A lot of people don't even have that. You went to school, maybe you studied, I don't know, communication and PR because they called you for that course, you know. By the time you're done with school, probably your profile, your personality profile and your core competency profile would actually be suitable for a different role, let's say an accountant, okay? So you start looking for a role that probably you're not suitable for, you don't have a lot of value to offer, you don't have the right personality profile, the right interest to offer to that role. That's, I think, where I think the problem in job hunting starts. So the employee marketplace is not just supporting employers as far as coming to assessing and filtering and managing millennials or young professionals. It's also supporting the young professionals to actually self-analyze, self-assess, and just learn how to articulate the value that they want to give to opportunities.
Okay, and given the number of CVs that you probably get on the site, what can you say about young people and the kind of CVs that they apply for jobs with? Zinakaji. Do you think like they can easily get jobs? Is it improving? What state?
I think the CV culture is quite standard in this country because all the CVs are advised mostly from Google HR experts, you know. But the thing is, they are not very personalized. Most CVs don't really communicate what you want to give out there. So let's say like you go and Google as a media personality, how should my CV look like? And then you pick up that template and most likely you'll get right the sections in terms of your name or the personal details up there, the experience, the education, the referees. You'll get those sections right. But you will not get something to sell yourself or know how exactly you're supposed to stand out. Assume you're an accountant. If 700 of you are applying for a position, as is usually the culture, it becomes very hard for an employer to pick out, so among you, who really is the better accountant.
And you have the same qualifications.
Yes, yes.
Then what?
Exactly. And I can tell you, there are no 10 accountants that are the same in this country. Not 10 accountants that have the exact same work experience, the exact same personality profile, the exact same interest in an accounting role. They are not. So among these 10 accountants, there is someone who could be much more suitable for this particular role than the other 9 guys, but they also didn't communicate it well. Okay? So as a recruiter, when I'm looking at the CV, I'm just seeing 10 guys that are just the same. Until I meet them for an interview is when I'll start picking out now who's different. But you see, that is leaving our fate to chance as job seekers, right? Hoping that you'll go for an interview and somehow you'll impress someone. Hoping in the first place you'll be invited for an interview. Yeah. The thing is, it needs to start as an approach for you, molding yourself to stand out from the competition from the word go.
Because the competition is high.
Yes.
Because the rate of unemployment is off the roof. So then there is need for one specific CV, my CV, to stand out.
Exactly. You need to stand out, not just your CV as yourself, from the point of where you're targeting a role to now where you're hitting on that role to where you're going for an interview. You just need to stand out because trust me, you are as unique as your, what are they called? The fingerprint, your palm print. You need to bring that out.
Okay.
Yes.
And so when people are applying for jobs, so there is a job application, what else is on Employ Kenya?
Okay, so Employ Kenya, for job seekers, what the engine does, we have an assessment engine where you are able to assess yourself and see through an aptitude and personality test, and see how you stack against a particular career, you know, and get advice on how better you can stack against this career, or how to improve your chances as you're targeting this particular career. So of course, like when you do that test, let's say you are targeting to be an engineer, the test is able to tell you, in terms of your IQ or aptitude wise, probably you should look for something else, you know. That is number one. You are able to review your CV. We have an automated CV review tool that is run on artificial intelligence. So you upload your CV, it runs it through the engine and gives you feedback on what needs to be changed on that CV. If you want like more personalized or better professional services in terms of now understanding your CV and crafting a better CV,
Yeah.
then you can apply to get your CV reviewed and edited by one of our CV professionals. That is for job seekers. Of course, now there are the jobs also to apply, okay? For employers, they are able now to recruit among this entire pool of professionals, and we provide them with tools to not just hire, but
Yeah.
also to manage these professionals post-hire.
Okay.
Yes.
And for you starting Employ, then you must have identified a need or a gap, and that is goes for anyone who wants to start a business. Then you're told identify a need in the market. So what is it that you identify that the market needed?
Okay, so it's just like we were just discussing earlier on. I've told you about my experience job hunting after school. When I advanced professionally, at some point I got to work with Brighter Monday, and I think that's how my insights into how the job marketplace, how the dynamics look like, I developed them at that point. And at Brighter Monday I was in charge of retention, and one of the biggest, that means looking out for clients in the dead pool and trying to find out like why are they not reusing the system. So what we found out at that point is that employers used to complain that they're not getting CVs from Brighter Monday. Okay, they're not. Yes, they sometimes for some positions they get flooded by CVs, and to some point it's irritating, because when you get 700 CVs, like how do you go through them, right? And what becomes even more irritating is when you go through the first 50 and you still haven't seen. Okay, so you've advertised an accountant, and guess what's in the first 50 CVs? It's an engineer, it's a cook, it's everyone but an accountant.
Yeah. People just want any opportunity that they get.
Job seekers use the shotgun approach. Anything that's out there, I'll just click
Anything
apply. God before me, you know. So it's at that point that I realized there's a disconnect in the job marketplace. I mean, there is this very high unemployment in the market, but then there's also these very serious complaints and challenges with employers that they can't find the right or qualified candidate. And that's where I figured out there needs to be a different system, because as long as every solution that came into the market only picked one vertical or one interface in the job market to address, then there is still a disconnect, because all these things are two sides of a coin. If job seekers are not supported in their job search experience, then they just flood you guys with applications and you will be complaining as employers. So that's why we decided to come up with a single sourcing point that's addressing all the job marketplace issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think that could be the problem affecting a lot of youth who want to start businesses? Like they didn't factor in the need, the gap?
Yes, so what are the challenges that are here? Of course, one of the challenge is highly tied to the profile of who a millennial is. They tend, I think, not to pay like deep focus on preparation. They like the motion first. So the deep focus on preparation, and even the preparation that I'm talking about in job hunting is the same preparation that lacks in starting a business. You know, just take a few days to understand
Take
your
your
market.
time, yes.
Exactly, exactly. So people just want to get in and get moving. Okay, so I think that's one of the challenges. I can't remember, what was your question?
Because you identified a need.
Yes.
And so that is what your business is working towards. You know, to feed that need.
Yes, okay, thank you. So like I'd said, there were two angles or possible explanations for this challenge. One of it is the profile of the millennial, want to get things moving without enough base preparation.
Yeah.
The second thing is just a cultural thing. I mean, we are very big on copy paste as a country, you know. You go to, I always use this example. When you're in traffic, there are all these hawkers and all of them are selling bananas. Like, can't someone sell something else?
Something different.
Exactly. So I think one of it is cultural, one of it is probably around the profile of the thought process of a millennial. Yeah.
And then when starting businesses, it's one thing to start businesses. People have started so many businesses, from mitumbas, selling shoes. There are so many businesses, but after some time, then unauliza mitumba zilienda wapi? And they're like, niliachana nayo biashara. So for one reason or the other. But we want the youth to have businesses that are sustainable. So then, how can people have businesses that are sustainable? Your business is sustainable. It has been around for a while and it has consistency.
Sacrifice is a key thing. Beyond, like we said, prepare well. But so this is the thing. There are two reasons for starting a business, and I think for me, my conviction was very strong around the market need from the time that I started, because I tend to be more convinced about things than maybe a lot of people. So I was heavily convinced, and I think for our business to have survived a lot of hurdles that we face in this market, whether it's election years, whether it's COVID, you know, I think it all surrounds like the conviction that we feel like we are serving and providing a very key component that's required for this market. So when you start a business with such a vision and conviction of what you want to achieve, then the small challenges you meet along the way, like you don't have customers, you don't have money, you're struggling and blah, 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 those are very small. You view them as very small issues. But then there is this other big reason why young people start businesses: to make money. Yeah. You know, you're told, I'm told nowadays Mtumba is the thing. Kuna do.
Quail eggs.
Yes.
Everybody was selling quail eggs.
You will not go through the first two challenges before dropping that, because making money as a vision, once you get into the grind, really you realize it's not worth the heartache. So you'll just drop it off. Yeah.
Okay. And when one is putting up a business, now Employ Kenya, how did it come to be?
Okay, so
the genesis, from the conception of the idea and the steps that you made towards now say that from today I have a company called Employ.
Yes. So the beginnings of Employ were actually a bit humble. So I had this idea that I discussed with a friend in a restaurant, and I said, you know what, I think that could be really hot, you know. But then now starting needs money, right? You need to have a lot of capital.
There's
if you're getting into
the question of capital.
Exactly.
Capital.
You're getting into the digital space, so you think your biggest challenge at that point is you just need the money.
Yeah.
But I think our journey followed the path of one of the first things I did was to try and figure out whether there is actually demand for what I'm talking about. And I decided to test the concept in a bit of just a basic crude manner, and I think I got a client. I just got one client in the process, and yeah, that started us off. And one client, myself, in my own house, and that's just how we started. The next thing we had is that someone told me, oh, there's this guy who's looking for school internship, you know, school attachment. If you can give him that. I said, fine, let them come. You know, I could really use the help because I was doing everything. And I think that's just how we started, and I really can't describe, because it's been a lot of things to get where we are right now. But yes.
And so you had been in employment.
Yes. Just before, there is something critical. I know the information you're looking for, I had forgotten. So when we did that, in within 3 months, I think I had gotten some money to start looking for a partner now to start working on the tech function of the platform that we're talking about. So that's what we started. We built in 2016. And even before going out and registering the company and handling the tax issues and all that, we set up the website, and we said we'll just run the website first and see if it will actually attract users, if it will actually make any money in the process. And that's what we did. So I think by the time we decided to incorporate now fully as a business, we were actually pretty sure about the business model and the resources and everything that we were doing, and we had already some track and clients. Yes.
And you have talked about taxes, there's permit and everything, and this is a bit that most people do not factor in as they're going into business. So how important is that?
It's very important. Like you have to file your taxes because there's a lot of businesses that you can't do business with in the corporate space, in the formal space that we operate in, if you are not very compliant. So, well, you have to get your business permit, because you also don't want the kind of environment where anytime you hear there is some city councils around the area,
you close up and hide.
Yeah, I mean, you can play those games,
Yeah.
but you see, we are not here. If you are sure of your vision and where you're going, you know, you're not here to play such games. Anytime you close your office, you're sacrificing time that you would have used to build on the future, right? So yes, around permits, I know different counties have different permit regulations. I think for me, our first office was in Machakos, so it was a lot cheaper for us to get permits. The permits were cheaper there, maybe around 4,000 or something. So yeah, if you need that kind of, I don't know, ingenuity to just navigate, because you really don't have money. Also understand, when you start, you really have no money. But you see, it's cheaper now to take a 4,000 bob permit than to take a 20, 30K permit in Nairobi. Yes.
And then also just being in, adhering to the rules and regulations. So that is also important in terms of how professional your company, the outlook of your company.
Exactly, exactly.
And then now let's talk about, now the business has started. Employees, so at first you said you had a client, one client and an intern. So how did you progress? Was it by word of mouth? Did you have to go out and do marketing?
Yes, I was in the field myself a lot. Also my intern was in the field a lot. Not in the field, just doing sales or trying to book me appointments and all that. So yes, there is a lot of work that you'll just have to do as yourself. You know, you are out there trying to close business and sell to people, but then you have to come back to the office and actually sit down and execute on their requirements. So I'll tell you what, there is something around there. One of the biggest startups in this market is a very good friend of mine. They've received the highest funding a startup has ever received. And one thing both me and him agree is that even if you are getting into the digital space, you know, the ingenuity that we spoke about, finding ways to make yourself alive, to keep yourself alive, okay, before you even start to grow is very key. You figure out what part of your service can you issue as a consultancy, you know. Which part of that can you issue as a consultancy so that you make some money from that as you're building on the other parts of the service?
Okay.
Yes.
We'll be taking it from there. But for now, we are taking a short break here on Thursday Night News, where we'll be back to talk more about making businesses, starting businesses that are sustainable for the youth. Don't go too far.
Kibera slum. It's different and the biggest of its kind in Africa. with people drawn from different backgrounds, all united in their quest to beat the odds and change their lives. Amid a grinding poverty and neglect, theirs is a life driven by hope for survival, engineered by 3 P's: patience, passion, and perseverance. Join us on Look Up TV as we shine a light on Kibera's untold stories.
Turn your 50 bob into a $1 million investment. Changamka and Shindagari Chap Chap with Hometel. There's millions in shillings worth of prizes to be won. Send your 50 bob to paybill number 4040153 and get a chance to win 20,000 shillings daily. And each week, one person gets a chance to walk away with a Mazda Demio and another a Beth Mobility motorbike. Remember, the more times you try, you could be the winner of a fantastic Toyota Prado. Do not be left out. Send 50 shillings to paybill number 4040153, account name Look Up TV, and get yourself a Hometel lucky number. Changamka and Shindagari Chap Chap with Hometel promotion. For more information, visit www.shindagari.co.ke. Terms and conditions apply.
Yanaya kutoka machozi, anaona
Are you willing to pay the price for success?
Movement isn't progress, but progress requires movement. We have believers today who want 24 hours miracle, who wants 24 hours success, who want fast food victory.
And curry is a thickener. Don't know if you know that. It is a thickener and also a flavor for soup or stew.
Are you afraid of aging?
I believe in long life. So I know that as I'm growing older, I'm achieving more.
Okay, well, the easiest answer would be, yeah, of course you can have it all. If you want it all, you're going to have it all. But you're going to pay the price.
A woman is created to be when she is privileged to be in leadership.
In this life, we all walk through loss, heartache, and disappointments.
Our eyes are opened, our ears are opened, our hearts are opened, our minds are open, so that God can speak to us directly.
God is with us every step of the way.
So when you see how they were transformed through their relationship with Jesus, their encounters with God, it changes me.
Welcome back to Thursday Night News, and on today's episode we are talking about youth and starting sustainable businesses. And I have with me Sophie, who is the CEO and founder of Employ Kenya. Yeah, and we have talked a lot about Employ and what the company does. But then there is, I don't know if you've started other businesses before, because people start businesses and the businesses fail or they don't take off as they thought. Sometimes even the business can be running for a couple of years, and then for not factoring a few issues, then the business fails. How can people pick up after businesses fail?
I don't think I can talk very conclusively around that, because I've done small businesses when I was still in school. The usual selling clothes, selling timber, you know. Yeah, so I think in terms of just officially starting a business, Employ was really the first one. So I can't really talk so much about failure in business. But I think business, if you're to run a successful business, business is one of the spaces that requires a lot of grit, you know. And I think anybody who's run a business for a considerable amount of time, let's talk about 5 years, they are probably, if they got hit and they went down, they're probably likely to just come back up, because for them to survive the 5 years, there was also a lot of grit that was required for them to hold on. So I think, yeah, it just requires grit. And I think after failure, you are probably doing it more right, because
you've learned
from the first mistakes and all that. So yeah.
And we know that a lot of startups, actually they say most startups, they close up in 5 years from the day that they get started.
Yes.
And the question, even about many companies across the country, say the supermarkets that close down after so many years of being in business, the question that seems to cut across all these business shutdowns is mismanagement of finances. So maybe you can talk about that in terms of how you manage the finances at Employ.
How we manage finances. That's a very interesting question. I don't think, because we have very solid structures. Everybody gets paid their deserving pay, including myself as the CEO. So we've not gotten such a huge issue around mismanagement.
So how do you then manage?
We are a small company. I don't think our financial aspect is quite complex. I mean, we have our team, we have people in charge of finance. I don't think we have anything that's a bit complex or dealing with a lot of suppliers. The issues that you see that crop up at supermarkets, where maybe people in the finance division or some of the directors, they come up with fake supply accounts and just pay into those supply accounts, and that just siphons money out of the business. So I don't think we have a lot of experience for us to conclusively talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as a business is progressing, then you increase the number of staff. So what is the process in terms of, now the company is making this much, so it means I could get 2 more employees for this department. How do you go about it?
Okay. Hiring team members is usually a calculation in as you evaluate like the factors of production, right? So we have more clients. Does that mean we need maybe 1 more person for deliveries or 1 more person for customer service, you know? So when you evaluate the need within the processes and seeing how much of your process flows efficiently, then you can decide, based on your own cash flows, you can see how much the business is making, then you can decide to hire 1 more person. Also, as you hire 1 more person, you can also come up with some rough calculation of how much returns do you expect from this new hire, right? How much of their time will go into training, how much resources will go into them during the learning curve, and after that, the returns that you get from now, their input, how they're likely to impact the business.
Okay.
Yeah.
And still on management of finances,
yes,
there is a stereotype about Kenyan CEOs as compared to Indian CEOs. Like you'd find a CEO of a very big enterprise, but they're driving a simple car. But Kenyans, once they are CEO, they start making the money, then it's a Range Rover, it's a V8.
The Nigerians call it the big boy syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's because of maybe our own challenges and personal ambitions, or the societal expectations we individually want to meet, is when you see such issues, you know, like someone immediately wants to buy a big car. So it probably has something to do with that. Honestly, I wouldn't also know about that, because I'm more into driving smaller, simpler cars.
So you would say that the way you manage your finances is steady as how the company pays in, and as you enrich yourself economically, then the progress comes in at a slow and steady pace.
So I'll tell you about our finances. all our proceeds or all our returns are focused into the growth of the company.
Okay.
There was always one extra goal. There is always one extra goal that we want to achieve or to meet. As an organization, our vision is by 2024, we want to serve 50 million Africans and 5 million businesses. That's a huge goal, right? So for us to keep focused, it means every return has to go actually in rebuilding that kind of future. So that's why even as a CEO, I'm paid very little, so I can't drive a big car, because the money goes into either building one more feature on our website, or hiring one more key person or resource, or getting a bigger office or something. It's always something. So probably I've not been in it long enough. Probably I'll start driving the big cars tomorrow. But I've seen, yes, I have seen my colleagues who really drive big cars, and I don't try to question what they're doing with their finances. Yeah.
So what I'm getting is that then you need to plow back into the business to ensure the sustainability.
You have to. And I think being in this market, that's what people don't get. I think probably there's a point where you really break big, and you know you've broken big, and you don't have to deal with the insecurities of the market anymore. But our market is highly insecure. Every 5 years you're dealing with election challenges. Sometimes something, the cat is pulled out of the bag, like the coronavirus and all that. You always have to plan for these events, and planning and securing the business for these events costs money. So unless you want to be the stereotypical business person, 1 year they're doing so well, they've bought a car, they've been impressed their friends, but within 3 years, and I've personally witnessed this, I've met someone who was driving a Range Rover and a Prado and a Mercedes at the same time.
Whoa.
But I also met them just 5 years later, and they lived in the village. And yeah, so
after everything comes down, then
yes,
no way forward.
Yes. I think business is one industry that has to teach you to build character. You know, issues around discipline and all that. You have to have this in you. Otherwise, I don't see things going very far.
And you brought about COVID-19, and a lot of businesses felt the impact, and it hit businesses so hard. People closed down. Yeah, people have been adversely affected, but your business is still around. So what steps would you say you took, or what did you try to cut down during the pandemic to sustain the business?
COVID-19 was harsh, extremely harsh. But like I said, business teaches you to be disciplined. And when you're disciplined, you learn to do the right things, okay? Despite how painful it is, you learn to do the right things. And then you hope now they pay off. And I think we experienced a bit of that, because when COVID-19 started, I had some money in the company account.
Okay.
And we were just draining all that money into payroll, you know, and not a single shilling coming back. And I remember thinking at some point, why not just cut my losses right now, man?
And pack up. And
just tell these guys to go home, take the little money I have in my account, probably go on a holiday, because I was very emotionally taxed, okay? But I think it was the fact that I didn't start the business to make personal profits in the first place. I started the business to impact and support people in the job space. And these are the people who were highly affected last year. There were a lot of people that I knew personally. Our business knows these people who've been in very comfortable jobs and positions. Someone was earning 700,000 a month, lived very well. And this person is a dad. He has parents and siblings. You know the way in Africa, if you are well off, you are then...
You take care of the family.
Exactly,
yes.
Black tax. But then this person ends up jobless. You know, this person is facing a lot of mockery from society and the people who used to support them. This person doesn't know how to provide for their kids. So you see, as employee, we can just pack up our stuff and say, yeah, you know, it was good while it lasted.
So count those losses.
Yes. So despite, and I used to tell my team in the meetings, like, I feel like I should just cut my losses right now. But then my team also, these are people with responsibilities. You can't just lay them off. And I think the fact that we stuck to doing the right thing despite how costly emotionally it was, I think that is one of the reasons why we're here today. I remember I didn't cut off anyone from the let go of anyone or fire anyone, and that was very heavy, and it was very attractive because everyone else was firing people. It was very easy to fire people because COVID, you know. So I remember for me, one of the first decisions I took to manage, because we still had to manage cash flows, I went to talk to my landlord about rent, you know. So I wrote my landlord an email. You know, it's a very comfortable office apartment with banks and very large businesses. And you see, these are businesses that probably paid all their rent in January, you know. Yes. So I wrote my landlord and told them, you know what, I will need a rent discount. So the landlord, the agents never responded. So I wanted to talk to a couple of other offices and see if we could like talk as a unit, right? Yeah. So I went to the neighboring office, and when I asked them about it, they told me, what exactly do you people do? Then they said, as we are fine, you know, as we are in the freight industry, we don't have any challenges. And I was like, okay, fine, okay. Thank you for that. So anyway,
you're trying to get quorum, but now
it couldn't.
You're not in the same space.
The other offices, I can't even get their CEOs. They're in South Africa or in India. People are just fine. Okay. So a few months later, the lady who supplies lunch in these offices was the one who was telling me the other office where they told me that they are very comfortable, they actually fired people, and I thought. I think maybe they should just have asked for a rent cut, because we got a rent cut anyway.
Yeah. So talk about when you actually have a challenge. Someone can actually listen and, you know, give those discounts.
Yeah, they can. I mean, yeah, they do understand. Landlords are business people. They do understand their audiences. For me, the reason around not also really wanting to cut off the staff and maybe fire people, beyond the obvious fact that you can't fire people during a pandemic and just hope they'll be fine, there was also the other issue about having loyalty to you as a company. You know, your staff have been loyal to you from the time you built, and you've gotten this thing to this stage together, right? And this is the time for you to prove to them that you can also be loyal. You know, there is no other time for you to prove to your team you can be loyal.
This is very difficult moment, unforeseen.
Exactly. So you will find this is the time. At some point, we really ran out of money, and it was really bad. And it's the staff that came to me and told me, we want to take a pay cut, you know. Yeah, so I asked them, so how much do you want to take a pay cut? They say 50%. So I asked them, does that mean you'll work half the time? They said, no, we'll work full time.
Okay, looks like your goals. The boss when everybody just loves.
No, they don't laugh. No, don't confuse the two. I mean, I'm a difficult, like tough boss, but they also, I think, understand the mission of the organization.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and you have said consistently about the reason for starting the business, that it was not about money.
Yes.
And they call us the microwave generation. So that you want it, and you want it now, and you want to see the profits as soon as possible. So and when you say it's not about the money, then a lot of youth are gonna be like, then what is it about?
Yeah, I don't know if this thing about just having a sense of purpose is inbuilt in everyone. I don't know. But I try to understand like the whole psychology of the millennials and them saying they want things when they want. It's very standard across all generations. The kind of media and news you consume during your youth is what will guide you into young adulthood, right? So for our teens, they grew up with social media and socialites and the Kardashians and all that. And they think these things are pretty easy to get. So I don't think it's very easy for us to like steer them into a different direction. For I think my generation, which is slightly older, we grew up in the villages where life was maybe less than ideal, and You knew for you to escape whatever mess you are in, you had to achieve something, and you knew if you wanted to achieve something, you wanted to give back to society. So I think that says the entire difference around the psychology of maybe a 33-year-old like myself versus maybe a 23-year-old. Yeah.
Okay. So then let's talk about businesses in times of crisis. Now, like we have said, you managed to sustain the business.
Yes.
In the midst of a pandemic, when so many people shut down.
Yes.
But businesses then, after a pandemic, when some people closed down businesses, coming from the ashes, then what would that take?
I think nature has cycles. Just like they say, you have darkness, you have light. You have a depression, then you're going to have a peak, right? And I think it's the same thing. Personally, I witnessed in 2017, business was really bad. But then there was the rebound in 2018. So what someone always needs to do is not just to persevere as they wait for the peak, but also to build or structure themselves so that when the peak comes, then they'll be able to sustain or deliver against the demands of the peak. And I think it's the same thing we also faced during COVID-19, where business just really went really down, and then we saw it again start going up a bit. So the challenge always is the journey of starting a business is incredibly hard. And I don't think the ones who like collapse along the way, I think that's where it becomes really, really hard to start, even when things are now back to normal.
And retail business is different from an online business.
Exactly.
You are online.
Yes.
An online platform.
Exactly.
Yes. So even the challenges then are different. Yes.
Maybe, yeah.
You're like give or take, give or
yes,
take.
Yes.
So then the
probably.
challenges are different, because on the ground you'd say customers are not coming in. Those are the kind of challenges that we have when the business is physical. So on the online platform, we know a lot of businesses are existing online, and so it's a crowded market. Then there is need for a business to stand out. So with the trends, what are some of the things that your business is doing in order to command the influence on the online platform?
So I think because digital it's enmeshing itself a lot in our day-to-day life. Like selling clothes right now, you may have to put it on Jumia, on Facebook, and run an ad, you know, to boost it. So because a lot of our activities are online, so a lot of retail, even including selling fruits and fresh vegetables, people are now having to incorporate a digital aspect of it to some extent. In terms of challenges to stand out, I think the easiest challenge is to buy loyalty of the first few people who've already had their faith to come to you. And I think that's where a lot of people lose it, because you go on chasing for more and more and more, but then as long as you're still a small organization, then you don't have the resources to build the entire infrastructure needed for you to satisfy now this entire chain of people. So I think the old tenets of just successful businesses, like managing operations efficiently or managing customer satisfaction, those are still the key things people need to do, whether they are doing it online or offline.
Okay. And you are also creating business opportunities for other people, which is very important, because when we then get empowered, then we give back. Giving back is always required of us as human beings. So at Employ, how many employees do you have?
Oh, currently we are a team of 12.
Okay.
Yes.
And on the platform?
On the platform, oh yeah, we are serving more than 50,000 job seekers and more than 3,000 SMEs registered in 7 African countries. And also we have some presence in the UAE and in the UK.
Okay.
Yes.
And in terms of the technical jobs, we know now with the online platform, then there is capacity for more and more technical people. So have you factored that in as well?
Technical people with or technical jobs in the market? Not really, because you know we've differentiated ourselves as we want to be a platform that's handling the formal industry at the entry level spectrum. So there are still other competitors in the market. I know there are those who are handling more Juakali jobs and all that. I know some of those, but that's not the space that ourselves we felt like we need to operate in.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so as we conclude, I would like to pick your thoughts on different young people who are looking to start businesses, who have conceptualized an idea. They have brought it to life or not. They are hoping to do that. And maybe you can reflect back on what it took for you to actually now begin. So what advice can you give, given that you have experienced the, before the idea, then putting it into work and actualizing it?
Okay. I think the answer is probably cliche, but you just go for it.
Cliches are there for a reason. Yes.
You just go for it. I think that's what I will tell young people. You go for it, and if you go for it for the right reasons, then they'll pay off, you know. And the other thing about business is that if you play in it long enough, it teaches you some of the values and qualities that you will never pick up just by being employed somewhere, you know. You are conceiving something, and you are nurturing it, and you are growing it, and in a very tough environment, and there is competition, and there is people management skills. How are you going to hire? There is negotiation skills. And I think as an employee, even if I were to go back to the job marketplace today, I'm a way better employee than I was before, after 7 years of being in the corporate space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for honoring our call and being part of this discussion.
Thank you too.
Okay. And we've come to the end of Thursday Night News. I had with me Sophie Mwale, who is the CEO and founder of Employ Kenya. And she talks about the grit the young people need to have in order to start businesses that are sustainable. I am Nancy Nalima. Thank you so much for watching.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations. Feel free to get in touch with us through 0700 893 542 or send us an email to views@look-up.tv. We can't wait to hear from you.
In this life, we all walk through loss, heartache, and disappointments.
Our eyes are opened,